is board members Rob Nato, Norm Goupel, Andrea Folsom, and myself, Jim O'Brien. Dulcie LaPoma is running a few minutes late, so she should be here momentarily. We're joined by Max Aframe, our student rep, and Michelle Clark, business administrator, and Mr. Michael Flynn, our superintendent of schools. So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Max, you want to kick us off?
Me?
Lead the pledge? Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is that just adding to the breathlessness?
What's that?
Is that just adding to the breathlessess?
That's right. Was that a bucket list item? I didn't even know. That's
No,
great.
he's out of breath. So.
All right. What was the date of the last meeting? 2/8. So we have minutes from our last meeting of February 8th to approve, and they've been in our packet, so I'd ask if there's a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. And welcome, Dulcie.
Thank you, Charlotte.
No, you're right on time. So we're going to start with student representative comments. And Max, you're our lone student rep this evening.
Yes. I think everyone's excited for break. Obviously, you know, the February break I feel like is the one that comes at the most opportune time. Like that middle of the winter, always tough for everybody. It's dark out, but you know, it's the beginning of spring. People are excited. I know for everyone, at least for basketball, sports season's been disappointing. I know for Alpine they did win the championship, which is good for them. I believe cross country is still happening for a while.
We'll get to it during my comment.
I'll leave you to do that one. I think people are just, you know, excited moving through the year. I think there's a little bit of disappointment that we're not going to be able to have Winter Carnival this week. But with that being said, I think there's some excitement for being able to do it outside later in the year. I think that, honestly, in my opinion, that will be better than having it inside and be outside, have like a old school type field day. It'll be fun. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Max. Board member comments? Yeah, Rob has a preview already.
I'm just going to congratulate the girls Nordic team. So a week ago Saturday was the second connection series race, and for those people who don't follow the sport, there are two of them, one skate, one classic. And it's the only race in Norwich where every team in the state competes at the same time, including private schools. And the girls won both ends of that, classic and the skate race, so they are the Polaris Sibley Award recipients. Hopkinton girls team has not done that since 1998, so it's quite an accomplishment, and they're looking forward to their state meet and boys state meet, which is on March 8th. Yeah, so we got a little bit more time in our season.
Nice. Other comments? Wow.
Wait.
All right. Andrea?
No, I got nothing.
All right, so we'll move on in the agenda. We are going to be, our third topic tonight is going to be the Safe Learning Update, and as we talked about at our last meeting, we're going to have a discussion around masks and our masking policy. I assume, because we got some emails, that some people here are here specifically for that item, so I'll just ask if you would sign up, if you want to speak for public comment. There's a sign-up sheet. That would be really helpful, and then I will do, as long as the board doesn't disagree, we'll hear the presentation from Dulcie, and then we'll allow public comments before the board gets into a discussion. So anyway, so it would help matters if you signed up early before we got there, and we can run through it. So with that, we'll start with a library presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Flynn.
Thank you. So one of our new things that we've been trying to do is highlight not just students, but now things that are actually happening in our school. And through the Hopkinton Public School Foundation, they spent significant money within our libraries to upgrade, and Donna has done a phenomenal job of taking those upgrades, and what she's going to show you tonight is how active the center of our school can be, and what she's doing to work with the students. So just another area of highlight to show the community what's going on, and some of our leaders are here. On that note, also to let the school board know, later tonight, you'll hear another action item that the Hopkinton Public Schools Foundation is going to do a second round of donation for the middle high school library. So there's going to be another wave of upgrades this summer for the start of next year, maybe sooner, depending on obviously stock and delivery and all those things. But so Donna's here to talk a little bit more about it.
We should remove, we probably should.
It's up to you. I think we have this presentation. This is the one you shared with us, correct?
It is, yes. Yep. Okay, can you guys hear me okay? So yes, I shared this presentation with the board, and Superintendent Flynn asked me to just come present it in case there are questions. It would be nice to address those too. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to present to you, and thank you, Superintendent Flynn, for inviting me. And I decided, I usually do an annual report, but I decided to do one after semester one because there were so many changes, and just as a thank you, a huge thank you to the Hopkinton Public Schools Foundation. I'm amazed at the support that we have in our community in order to move projects like this forward. And I just applied, as Superintendent Flynn said, for the second grant and received it. So I'm so excited to just keep the program moving forward. So that's what this was about, just to kind of highlight the renovation. And I should say we started this process in 2018, so it was a while. We surveyed all the students. I asked them questions like what gets in the way of your learning, what supports your learning, and based on that feedback, developed a plan to try to bring the space forward. And one of the things that, the highest thing, was more comfortable seating. So this fits with our move to one-to-one computing and having spaces where students don't necessarily need to sit, at a formal table to work. So creating comfortable spaces with laptop tables that they can move around. Really, flexibility is key, and this is like worldwide. When they survey kids around the world, they really want open, collaborative spaces. That is the resounding message. So that's what we're trying to create in our little space. So these are the new chairs that the foundation purchased for us. And then we also added tall tables so that people could work in standing. The comfy chairs are full every block. That was definitely a great purchase. We also just added, this was with district money, but we added a height adjustable electric table. And that has been a dream of mine for ADA accessibility, so that if we have students in wheelchairs or even just injured athletes who are in wheelchairs, whatever, we have a space now that is height adjustable, and it's on casters, so we can move it wherever we need to move it. So that's really exciting too. I don't have a picture of that, but the shelving that you see in this picture is on wheels. So we can actually just wheel it out of the middle of the space and create a really big open space. So when we have things like Celebration of the Arts or Poetry Out Loud or other community events, we can create a big open floor plan and have space for those kinds of things. The tables are on casters, two of the tables. I probably will add my own casters to the remaining furniture so that I can move them around pretty easily. And one of the things that was very intentional is the kind of seating. So we tried to create 4 different kinds of seating. One is called private alone. That's like the study carrel, where students who need space, they want alone space to really concentrate, have that kind of seating. One is called public alone, which are more like those soft seating where kids are in a group, but they're all doing their own thing. So they want that publicness of that, but yet they're doing their own projects. And then private together is like a collaborative station. So we have that against the wall where students can work in a small group. And then public together, which would be a class, everybody at the tables. And the tables can be moved around into a U, or which we do often. So that was intentional. I focused a little bit on instruction because I think sometimes we think about the books and the space, but less about the program. And so one of the things that has been really great is we've done a lot of collaboration with the English department in particular, social studies too, and science, but primarily English, to build the information literacy curriculum grades 7 through 12. And we've been able to map it out and really hit different skills at different grade levels, which we just keep building on. So that's been great. Then this is just a fun picture of 7th grade science at the beginning of the year, where we did a paired project. There were books on all the tables with different kinds of topics, and kids just had free exploration, and they did mind mapping, where we had a topic on a paper, and they just had to ask questions. And actually, after break, I'm going back into those classes to teach them about keywords and how to actually find the answers to their questions. So we're going to be coming back around to that topic. We always do 7th grade library orientation, and this year for the first time I did what's called Breakout EDU, which is escape the room, basically. So there's a box, it has a bunch of locks on it, and the kids have to go to different stations and get information in order to solve the puzzle of the different locks. And this was a quote from the 7th grader said, that just cracked me up. Not that they have often library orientations, but he said, this is the best, like to one of his friends, this is the best library orientation I've ever had. And I thought, I remember that. So clearly it was a hit. The other sort of behind the scenes thing that we do is passive instruction, and that's our displays. Like this was the fall one, which said applying to college and other horrors. So we had college books and college essay books on display, but also just different themes related to October and Halloween. And we actually weeded some books. So we wrapped them up in paper and put them out for kids to take for trick or treat with books. And we put funny sayings on them. Right now we have blind date with a book for Valentine's Day. So that's just another picture. The collection, obviously, we are given a budget to continue to develop the collection. So that's something that we do throughout the year. We take teacher requests, we take student requests, we read reviews in order to determine how to spend that money and what to purchase for our community. We also use the interlibrary loan system, which is something I wanted to call attention to because it's a way to extend our presence, I guess, without having to spend any funds. And so like in the fall, we borrowed 71 items where, I always tell the students, if we don't have it, please ask us, we can get it, usually. So that's something that we do. And we've had a number of students also ask for research articles, particularly seniors, juniors and seniors, who need more academic articles than our databases can offer. And I can reach out to any of the New Hampshire universities. We have reciprocal interlibrary loan policies with them, and they will send me the articles. I've been able to get chapters from books and research articles, so that's great for our students too. This was just about whenever we have in the fall, whenever we have new faculty, we always put their pictures up, and I give them a little welcome packet. The pictures also have a fun fact and their favorite book, because library. And the kids get to see who the new faces are in the building, which is nice. And the faculty hopefully feel welcome. I love keeping stats. And so these are just the highlights of our popular books. We just run stats on what book got checked out the most. So there's the middle school book, the high school book, and the most popular nonfiction book happens to be the Britannica Guide to Baseball, which surprised me. So apparently it's been checked out a few times. This stat was, I actually didn't even expect it to be this high. 58,245 were the number of hits in all of our over 20 research databases. That's phenomenal. And I do keep monthly stats. It's how I make decisions about what to not renew, and then where the holes are, what's not getting used, what's getting used. So I add those up, and this was just from August through December. And then I kind of broke it down a little bit, so you can just see EBSCO Coast. You might be familiar with that. The public libraries have access to that too. So that's peer-reviewed journal articles, magazine articles, ebooks, news articles, and that was over 2,000, almost 3,000 sessions Britannica is an encyclopedia, so we use that a ton for background content knowledge. We try to teach the kids to look there to figure out what questions to ask and what keywords they might be able to use as a jumping off point. And then the bottom one is the number of books checked out from the library in the first semester. So when people say to me, kids don't read anymore, yes, they do. Yes, they do. I'd like to always at the beginning of the year think about goals, and I'll do that again at the end of the year. So what are we doing with the program? How are we moving that forward? And this year, like I talked about, we're trying to align our curriculum 7 through 12 and working closely with the English department to get that done. And then we are working on a big project this spring with 2 students, one of whom is here today. I'll introduce them in a second. To what's called genreify our fiction, which is what you're familiar with in a bookstore. So we take the books and we put them in categories: science fiction, fantasy, mystery, historical fiction, so that students have an easier time finding what they're interested in. So we'll see how that goes. Again, that's where stats come in handy, because we can compare before we do that and after we do that and see if there's been an increase, and survey the kids and see if they like it. So that's it for me. That's just a fun little picture. I would like to just introduce 2 students that I brought with me, because one of the things that when I was asked to do this, happy to talk about the library program, but really it's not my space. It's my student space. And so I really want them to speak to the culture. We work again intentionally on the culture and trying to make that space feel very welcome for everyone. So I have 2 lovely students who agreed to come, Holly Butwell and Sylvia Dustin. Holly is a senior, Sylvia is a sophomore. Holly and Sylvia both are also in our high school book club that meets monthly, and Holly's one of the library interns for the spring semester, so she will earn some credit for doing work in the library. So I'm just going to turn it over to them for a couple minutes to give a little bit of background. Does anybody have any questions for me before I bow out? Yes.
So for the 58,000 searches that were done,
Yeah.
are those only in the library, or can students access the databases?
That's a great question. They can access the databases remotely. Yeah. Yep, and they all hopefully know how to do that, where we drive that home a lot.
Yeah.
And I have to password protect the passwords because of our agreements, so they know the one password that they have to put in to get all the passwords. Yeah. Yes.
Well,
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
Donna, this is great.
Thank you.
Do you guys do ebooks, and is there a sort of, you do?
Yeah, we do. We do ebooks both through, we have nonfiction referencey research ebooks, but we also subscribe to something called Sora, which is like Overdrive. It's a New Hampshire consortium, so kids can read ebooks and audiobooks actually through that on their devices. Yeah.
Nice. Is that in the statistics? Is that part of?
The Sora ebooks are not,
Okay.
because it's like a separate, it's not my database, so I get like monthly reports from the state, and it's all combined, so it's harder to tease out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. But that actually came in handy when we went remote. We were able to buy a class set of a particular title that the science department needed and check them out to individual kids, so it came in handy. Yeah. Other questions? Okay. Holly, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good evening. I'm very happy to be here tonight. Like she said, I am a senior student here. I started here in 8th grade. I am an intern and vice president of the book club this year. I actually started my internship sophomore year right before the pandemic, and as you can imagine, it'd be a little bit challenging to do a library internship from home. So that's why I'm continuing it this year. Something I did work on a lot starting sophomore year was I made a lot of displays. I put a lot of effort into those displays. And this year I am helping with the genreification, in her own words, of the fiction books in the library. And I have recently helped her break down like which genres we should have.
And colors.
Yes. For me, the library has always been very important to me. I was very shy moving here in 8th grade. I didn't have a lot of friends, so I spent a lot of time in the library, and I think that really helped with my development. The librarians are so, so sweet. They are always willing to help you out with anything you need, like whether it's a personal issue or you need help figuring out how to cite something, or you need some more credible resources or anything like that. They are always so willing to help. It is so, so sweet. I joined the book club in freshman year, and so far I've only missed one meeting, and I'm very proud of that. I think it's a very welcoming environment for everyone. You can just walk in and ask for help, and they are so willing to help. And the whole environment is so comfortable for anyone. I think that the chairs, like the new chairs, it's such a good addition, and it definitely brings us together. I think the library, I don't know, I come in early every single morning, and I go say hi to the librarians. I'll get there around like 7:40, right as they're unlocking the doors, and I'll go talk to them, ask them how their weekend is, and they're so willing to talk about that. They're so willing to talk about academics or anything that you want. It's altogether such an amazing and fantastic environment, and I definitely recommend that more people go there more often. It's
Thank you. Great job. Great job.
Hi, my name's Sylvia. I started Hopkinton in 9th grade last year, and we were all remote, so I didn't really come into the library until this year, after the chairs were added. So I spend a lot of my time there. My school situation is really stressful. I'm going from homeschooling to Hopkinton to CRTC every day. So it's really nice to come into the library every day and just have a super comfortable and welcoming place to relax and just take a break, because sometimes I just need that. The chairs are a great place to do that, and so are the tables, and tables are really nice for when I need to get some work done as well. It's just a really great place to be, and even reading and studying, and really whatever I need to be doing. There's a great selection of books. I think it's expanding all the time. And I think the documentation of that is really going to help me find what I want to read, which is going to be really nice. And the Page Turners Book Club has been a really great way to talk to other people about the books that I like and the books that we're reading. And it's been a great way to kind of connect to the library community. And I think that's really, the library's kind of made that for me. It's kind of introduced me to the community of Hopkinton.
Great.
Thank you. So I don't know if there's any questions or comments that anybody on the board? Rob?
I have a comment, and really it's, I guess, kudos for Don. Transform the library of Hopkinton. You know, I remember when there was a crazy idea about letting kids eat lunch in the library. But just Don's whole approach to interacting with students and supporting students is, you know, if there's an all-star team for librarians, there you go. And beyond that, the support for the faculty, which really wasn't in the presentation, but so many teachers, as you're getting ready to do a project and you're looking for resources or doing your own research, she's there to support you. As well as, you know, the fifth wheel of technology, Hopkinton High School. If you've got a problem, and you can't figure it out, whether it's your computer or Google or where something went, there you go. So, absolutely amazing person to work with, and we're really lucky.
You're here. Thank you, Rob. Any other thoughts, comments?
I'll say one thing. You stole everything I was going to say. Great presentation. I love seeing the types of books that were the high ones that were taken out. But for me, as you know, with our resources with our school, I just want to give a shout out to the foundation for the support. They really do a good job with the library, and it was really nice to see. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you both, Holly and Elizabeth, for coming up and speaking to us as well. I know that standing up here and speaking to a group is not an easy thing, but it's really clear that you both are super passionate and that you have really tapped into the community that is the library. And so thank you both for coming and sharing. It really is very impactful.
Thank you. Mr. Flynn?
Outstanding job, ladies. We talk about all the avenues that we provide at the middle high school, right? Not just athletics, not just drama. We're incorporating all the things that we do on a day-to-day basis here and showing the avenues that we are providing our students and whether they access it and how they access it. So I wrote down the book club myself. I'd love to get an email when the next one's coming up. I look for it on the website. Is it posted on the website at all?
No, we just do it in morning announcement.
Yeah. So it'd be something I'd be interested in as well. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming in. Really appreciate it. All right, so we're going to move on to next item on the agenda, which is the upcoming school district meeting. And we're joined by moderator, Mr. James Newsom. Thanks for joining us, James.
Oh, my pleasure.
So when last we met, I think, maybe a little prematurely, that just starting to think about town meeting and sort of putting all the pieces together. And I know you were going to go to a training and then come back and report. So I'm just curious on the latest and greatest.
So I did do the training that was put on by the New Hampshire Municipal Association and the New Hampshire School Administrators Association, or whatever those are called these days. And subsequent to that, I also met with Sarah Parashino, the town moderator, and Jean Lightfoot, representing the supervisors of the checklist, and Carol, town clerk, as well, so we could all kind of be on the same page. And right now the plan is basically looks a lot like it did in 2019 and earlier. All in the gym, most likely a section for masked. I'd like everybody in the room. I'd like to try to keep the barriers. I don't want to create an us-them mentality, and that's why I want everybody in the gym instead of separating and segregating over here. I also want to be able to run voice votes, which we have to be all in the same room for that. So that's basically the plan at this point. Looks like the warrant has been posted, so we're all set there. I'm sure I'll meet with Mike and you, Jim, probably in the week or so beforehand to go over the book that we create with all the everything in there.
Jody and I are working on that already.
Perfect.
Yep, perfect.
And then we'll need things like the ballot boxes, the yes/no cards, the Sharpies, things like that.
Yep.
So.
Michelle, we're on top of all that.
That's great.
So
Good news.
Yep.
Well, I guess one question is under Article 1 is to hear from any committees. Is there like a building committee that used to present, or so you guys will have comments for that?
Yeah, so I think we'll have a list of a couple presentations that will be made.
Okay.
But we can bring that with us.
We can talk about that
Yeah.
before. I just wanted to get that sort of, to make sure we're thinking about that as well.
Definitely.
Any questions for me?
Any questions for Mr. Newsom?
Very exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be great to be back in person.
I don't even have the green bow tie back on. I haven't lost that in the last 2 years.
And are both it sounds like the school and the town process will be the same, so it's not going to be one.
Unless the town does something really wrong or learns something from it. I think our goal right now, we're thinking along the same lines. So,
That's great.
just as long as we don't get a huge spike after vacation week, which hopefully won't be the case. So we can always adjust, but there's no more House Bill 1129 to go remote. So we're moving forward in person.
And so you, just so so you said you'll have a section for those who may want to wear a mask.
I believe so, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
and there's no, the Attorney General, others are, that's not a.
The municipal association was extremely unhelpful in that regard.
Okay,
They said, basically, it's your building, so there's some deference that we can give to you. I would strongly recommend not barring anybody from coming in without a mask and not being able to vote. That ability to vote and actively and meaningfully participate on an equal footing in this election voting situation is paramount, so.
Yeah, please.
I feel like the last 2 years we're challenging in roughly 83 billion ways, but one of the things that we did do, I thought that, and that you did, and that I think the board did, was do a lot of communication around like when meetings were happening, what the format was going to be, how to do that, because we want to, is that part of the plan, sort of continue that, so surge and broader community awareness? People should know, I know it's the paper and it's noticed and everything else, but
and I think the last couple of years, and my memory might not serve me well, but I think we were required to do a lot of that posting because of the remote access and whatever the House bill, thank you, as in the number James said before, required us to do it, but I don't think we have the same plans in place this year. Although we could change that if we wanted to, but there wasn't a requirement to do, townwide mailing or to mail out.
yeah, I think just if you're doing, I cannot think of the alliterative candy with Cass thing for Mike.
Yeah.
But if you're continuing to just like
Moments.
reiterate
Yeah.
the
Moments
date
with Mike.
whenever you're talking to the community, talking to
Yeah.
Rotary, et cetera, I think that's great. We just want people to know what it is.
Yep, that's not a problem.
It would be, I think it would be good to do a lunch-cake countywide mailer with dates and with the warrant articles, so people can preview ahead of time. I know they're available, but oftentimes you often see people come in, they get the material, and they may or may not be reading it for the very first time. So if that goes out a week in advance, it's a little bit more time to think, ask questions, and deal with those later.
It's something we could talk about. I also wonder, and maybe approaching the town and seeing if we could do one mailer with both dates, information, because it doesn't have to be complicated, just be town meeting dates with a website where to go get, the warrant information. That might be something we could have a conversation with the town about and split the cost. Good ideas. Anything else from us, Mr. Newsom?
I will,
I was gonna flip that the other way around. Anything else for me?
yeah. I'm in and out of the office next week because of break, but I'll reach out to connect with you for the week of the 7th, something along those lines.
Okay.
All right.
The other one is people demand the ballot boxes, if there is that written ballot request. My goal as always is to do as many voice votes as possible, but that's not always up to me.
And it's five written requests, right? that
Correct.
constitute, okay.
Do you have an estimate, and I know we'll talk about it, but how many, volunteers do you guys have?
Right.
We'll probably need 12 if we have, I think it's standard, we have 6 ballot boxes,
Yeah.
and we try for a man and a woman at each box.
Yep. All right, excellent. Good.
It's good to know.
Great.
I think that's it. Thank you, James.
And just also in the Bible, whatever you call it, the big book, is for motions and seconds to make sure you list those, because Freedom of Information Act, we do need all motions and seconds, the names of people doing that, so.
Mike, you have in contact with our attorney, he's supposed to be there.
Yep, we're already scheduled. Yep.
Do we have 6 ballot boxes?
I think we do, yeah.
I think that's how many, we share them with the town, and so they have them, yeah. It's just the little ones, it's not the big ones, it's just the
The
little ones to hold the yes, no tarot cards.
Any other thoughts?
Oh, it's so exciting.
You get 2 of them you
I
can
mean,
go to.
I loved drive-through voting, because it was fun to sit with everyone, but this is the most fun, so. It'll be great.
The most fun, James.
It is. That's what he does.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
We'll be in
James.
touch.
All right, our next item is the Safe Learning Update, and as I mentioned at the top, Dulcie is going to give a presentation with, I believe, a recommendation, and then I'll ask the board if there's any clarifying questions, and then if anybody has public comment specifically on the mask policy, we'll take them then. Thank you, Dulcie.
Is there a dongle there?
No, Donna took it.
Wait, I think I got one.
I think it's
Wait,
in
is
a
it an
basket.
Is it an HDMI one?
Dulcie. You're a hero.
Coming back over, Max.
That's more important.
Hey, Jody. How's it going?
I have the USB one, but I don't think I have the HDMI.
You're in Mecca?
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
that's nice.
I have to do this. Oh, you remember?
All right, so first of all, it is the 2nd of February. Oh, it's the wrong date. It is, February 22nd, 2020. Pretty exciting stuff. All right, so what I want to do today is just review the prior framework that we had started talking about in November, go through a status update of where we are, and then work through my recommendation. All right, our recommendation there. Yeah. So what we talked about on November 4th was to move to mass recommended. The original hope was for in January, but for 4 criteria. 1, a change in CDC, NHDHHS, and AAP guidance. 2, a drop to moderate levels of community transmission as defined by less than 50 per 100,000. Consistent availability of vaccines and ongoing pooled testing. And that's sort of, and I'll walk through all of that. So for our vaccination levels, this is sort of what the trajectories look like. We have picked up a little bit in all residents, which I would assume, but you can't exactly infer if that's the 5 through 12 crowd. We're starting to make progress on boosters for all residents, but we're starting to see that. But what we do know is that there has been no shortage of vaccines for school-age children 5 and up, which is great, and that's what we've been looking for. For the general status, this was taken yesterday from COVID Act Now. We are at 56.8 per 100,000. What is remarkable is that I think for our January meeting, we were at like 196, so we are seeing rapid drops in our case numbers. You can see that sort of cliff on the top right there with the cases. And it's been dropping more and more every day. So I think last week we were in the 70s and 80s. A couple days ago we were in the 60s. We're getting there. So we're seeing sort of evolution through this. How we did through Omicron, just if people want to see this visually. Everyone hopefully knows that we have the daily numbers on the site, which is wonderful. But for students, we certainly saw a spike there due to Omicron happening in January. And again, we're seeing a nice sort of precipitous fall, which is wonderful. Same thing for absent and quarantine. For staff, we had done extraordinarily well through the fall, and then we did have some breakthrough cases there. But that also has been coming down, and if you are looking at the numbers for the past few days, we have been at or near 0, which is exceptional. In terms of guidance, the CDC and the AAP still do recommend universal masking. There's an anticipated change happening likely in the next 2 weeks, and so we've been working our way through that. There's still the NHDHHS toolkit, but we've been staying abreast of what these recommendations are. We're really trying to understand what the guidance is, and I think that something will be happening. So our current recommendation is that, as everyone knows, we go into February vacation next week, so we'd like to move to mask recommended effective that Monday, March 7th, 2022, with a caveat that if students and faculty or staff would like to continue to wear masks, they can and they absolutely should, and we recommend that they use a K95 or a KN95, and that this recommendation could change at any time per the recommendation of the superintendent in coordination with the board based off of in-school case rates, which could be defined by both the classroom and the entire school. It's worth noting that the pre-K, those kids haven't been vaccinated yet for the most part. And it is worth differentiating that we'd be looking at students, teaching staff, non-teaching staff. Community transmission rates, which have been, again, declining, which is terrific, but we want to keep an eye on that. New variants, and then any new guidance. So we want to be able to be flexible, and again, as things may change, make sure that the administration has the ability to do so, and that we would be able to bring that discussion back to the board on a forward-moving basis. In terms of just what we are continuing to work with in terms of our ongoing mitigation strategies, we are continuing with weekly pooled testing. Test kits are available at and from the school. KN95s are available at the schools for adults. There are surgical masks for the kids, and we're looking at options there to sort of look at what the mask availability is. We again are having quarantine and mask usage following positive test rates. There's a reference there, so you can see what those are. That hasn't changed since, Mike, when was that? January?
Yeah.
We are again asking that if a child feels sick, please keep them home and contact your school nurse for guidance. We really want to keep people home so we can keep all of our kids in school, which has been our goal from the beginning. We have an emphasis on spacing and ventilation at schools. We're continuing with the filtration program that we put in last year. And then again, an emphasis on outdoor learning as our temperatures warm up. It's worth noting that buses are still required on, masks are still required on buses because that's federally mandated. But otherwise, I think we feel like this is a really good move towards moving into an endemic status for where we are. Things may change, they likely will change. We will evaluate that new data as it comes in, but this is where we're at. Any questions?
Any questions for Dulcie? And there will still be time for discussion following public comments. But any clarifying questions from the board?
Kelsey, are we going to make this presentation available to the public afterwards
Yes,
as well?
totally. And all the links are there. Yep.
I'll attach the presentation to the update depending on us after. That makes sense, yeah.
All right. Thanks, Dulcie. Thank you, Norm. Appreciate that.
Turn off the screen. Are you able to turn the thing off? Oh, yeah, sorry.
All right, so we're going to do public comment, and I have 3 sign-ups, and I assume all 3 are on this topic, but if it's not, just let me know. So the first name is Polita?
Good evening. Polita Louis, 512 Pine Street. Just listening to Elsie's presentation. I just need some clarification on the masking. Is it recommended or is it optional? Is it optional? You said it's recommended that they wear the mask. So there's no optional, like, so if it's recommended, that means my kid doesn't have to wear a mask? Or my kids still have to mask?
Our current policy is a mask requirement, so this wouldn't be a requirement to wear a mask. It would be a recommendation to wear a mask.
So my question is, with all the major cities, New York, California, all these inner schools around us, making the mask optional for these children, because obviously they know kids need to breathe. I want to know why our district still insists on masking the children when the cases are down to almost 0. What is the point? It's like, what are we trying to do? Trying to make parents angrier? Trying to make kids sicker? Because my son, who's never been sick in his 6 years of life, this year, because of wearing that mask, he's never gotten COVID, but he's always stuffed up after school. He's always coughing and hacking. I have to keep him out of school. Had him tested for COVID, which he didn't have. And there's only one explanation to me. He wears that mask all day. He's depleted of oxygen and his body needs. We all know we don't need scientists to tell us what we're breathing in. We're not breathing in oxygen. The kids aren't breathing in oxygen. Here comes the summer. It's going to be even hotter in the building where the kids have to breathe. And the air quality in our schools, we all know, is not very good. So as a parent, I'm getting angrier as my son's getting sicker and all the other children are getting sicker. And we get the report from the school of teachers getting COVID, children getting COVID. And here we are, still masking kids. They can't breathe. Kids have to breathe. And I'm getting to the point, it's like, I don't want to get personal with any of you, because you guys volunteer your time to do the work you do, which we applaud you for in volunteering to get yelled at, chastised online, and all that BS.
We can let him finish, and then we can, that's all right.
I just want to clarify what the recommend.
Yeah.
Your children does not need to wear a mask. be clear, that is the policy going forward, that people do not need to wear masks. But in terms of language, instead of the word optional, is recommended. It is not required. Anyone who comes into the building who does not wish to wear a mask does not need to wear a mask.
Okay, so it's right, that's what.
Spread of
Okay.
Omicron and the efficacy of KN95, this policy, I'm assuming, is saying we would recommend that you do that if you feel that's in your best interest.
Okay, that's a lot more clear than I, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Next name is Lauren Clement.
Good evening, Lauren Clement, 86 Maple Street. Thank you for the presentation tonight. Thank you for opening this up to public comment. I appreciate it. My wife and I have been advocating for removing the masks from the get-go. I understand arguments on both sides of it. I am glad, elated that in the near future we will finally have a choice for our children. And that's all we really were looking for in the beginning. Hybrid choice, and that I hope that when a vote is taken that this goes through, because I see we have a presentation but we haven't made a motion and taken an actual vote on it, but I know at least 2 of my 4 children will be really happy about this because they do, as he said, complain of headaches and a lot of other stuff that I can only attribute to wearing masks, and we've tried to been compliant up until this point, but the time is now to make the shift, if not earlier. But I hope the board supports the presentation. We shall see. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda knew I was going to call her name before I did.
Amanda Gilman, 168 Westridge Circle. I know you all read my email, so I'm here to kind of reiterate a little bit and to say it also for public record because I feel very strongly about this educational piece. So thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the recommendation. I do hope that that is followed. And I know the board is very well aware of the completely disproven theory that simple masks protect those around you. This is 100% true for cloth masks, mostly true for surgical masks. I know I'm reiterating, I apologize. Surgical masks protect only against the largest droplets. COVID, especially Omicron, can still pass freely. In fact, there's 2 large randomized controlled studies, the gold standard in children, that show that cloth masks do no good. Additionally, many private schools around us have been unmasked since September with similar infection rates. So I realize that you have drawn a line in the sand of March 7th, but we're still allowing this concept of protection of others to be perpetuated. And we're still, until March 7th, this arbitrary line in the sand saying, well, we're masking to protect those around us. We need to change the narrative. And I see the reference to N95s for teachers and simple masks for children. And I realize that's probably a logistical piece, same reason we all wore cloth masks in the beginning, because it was what was available. But we have to teach them to protect themselves properly with an N95 or a KN95 and stop, harming them with holding them back with this fallacy and this untrue knowledge that they're protecting anyone. And so I hope that the board latches onto this and teaches our children the science behind this and how they truly can protect themselves. And it's important, but not giving them wrong information. Thank you.
Thank you. So those are the only 3 names I had for public comment. Does anybody else wish to provide public comment? No? Okay. I couldn't tell. Oh.
Just a quick question. Are you going to have another comment after the vote? Like, you can have a regular public
There'll be public comment at the end of the meeting at the regular time. Yeah. You're welcome. All right. Not seeing anybody else. Thank you so much. And I guess I'll turn it over to the board for discussion on the recommendation that Dulcie made, which is mask recommended, not mask mandatory. Any discussion?
I just have a couple of logistical questions.
Yeah.
Just more on the dynamics of running school. Like, we've seen, now we're going into a scenario where some kids will be choosing to wear masks and some kids will be choosing not to wear masks, and it will be kids. So how do you foresee messaging being said that, you know, we need to accept the decisions of others and be respectful of that.
Yeah, if I can actually echo what Norm said, believe it or not, right around November, and he brought it up in regards to vaccination, right? And understanding that we're all in this together, and whatever your choice is, whether the students said they were vaccinated or not vaccinated, all those things, and understanding that that's their choice. And it's the same as masking. If the student chooses to wear a mask or the adult chooses to wear a mask, that's their prerogative now. And in regards to the messaging, it's a building level thing, right, with depending on the age group, but it's going to certainly be held firm on that's their choice, and we support that no matter what you're doing. And I think, again, I won't speak for students, but I'm sure you could ask Matt, that I would say it's become kind of they don't even notice it anymore themselves, whether a student, because if you go to an event, even if you go to the mall, some kids are wearing it, some kids aren't. So I think it's become kind of a natural progression for students in that, but we'll certainly, if anything arises, it's the same as if you're being targeted for anything, not just a mask. So we'll make sure we're on top of it.
Then my second question is just in the language. I think I'm interpreting it that at this point, any changes from this would be in the hands of the superintendent and less in the hands of the board in terms of day-to-day operations. If we have an outbreak, how it's dealt with, so on and so forth. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so that would be my understanding, because, you know, Mike and his team run the schools, and so if you know, if there was a bunch of cases, you know, in second grade, I think Mike and his team would be able to manage, you know, however they felt best to manage that outbreak. We meet every 2 weeks. On wonderful months, we meet every week, but we meet every 2 weeks, and so I would hope that, you know, Mike and his team wouldn't have to wait for the board to convene to have that conversation, that they can act. And then when the board gets together and at our normal schedule, you know, the incident, Mike can bring that information to us. And I think if the board can always act as the board wants to act, and so if there was a consensus that something else needed to happen, I think we could work with Mike and get that to happen. But I think through this motion, I think the board would be putting the administration into the hands of Mike and his team to manage.
And I mean, we're day to day already, remember that. We're monitoring everything from pool testing to rapid testing to positive cases. I mean, we have a lot of data points that our organization looks at daily. So in regards to removing this mitigation strategy, we still have all those other mitigation strategies in place. And talking with the administration today, this is the first step, and then if there's another step, we'll come back, we'll make sure we're notifying the board that we're not making any drastic changes without updating and communicating. But this would allow me to, if there were, again, substantial transmission and we were able to pinpoint it, allow us the opportunity to target something if needed. And I've said since the beginning, it's not necessarily the students that'll bring down the system, it'll be the adults. So if for some reason there begins the transmission with adults, we need to make sure we're still able to open schools. We want to be here all the time. So that would allow me some flexibility, and as Jim said, we're here every 2 weeks. I can update you as we move along.
Yeah, I just underscore that I think we did an amazing job being able to stay open, and I think that being able to make the right decisions and empowering you to do that, so we can keep everyone in school for 180 days is like the goal of what we're trying to accomplish.
Yep, absolutely.
Further questions, thoughts?
I had a couple. When we put this out, it could be helpful to say that that we're switching to optional but recommended. That might be more clarifying for folks. I can see how that can be confusing. I also know that this is going to be, well, a lot of people are going to be thrilled that their kids are able to no longer wear masks in school. It's going to cause a lot of anxiety for a lot of, or for a segment of our teachers and students as well. And so I think that if the district as a whole could just be aware of that and open to providing additional support, because moving into this next stage, you know, we've been 2 years of having this discussion, and moving into this next stage I know can be it can be scary for some folks. I think that that's really important to recognize that this is not, you know, this is not exciting and happy for everyone. So.
And we experienced the same thing in the fall, right? All the families that came in July and sat up there and talked about their kids having anxiety and issues with masks. We worked with all those students. So it's the same thing. It's going to be the same process. Those families will, I'm sure we have a pretty good idea who they are, same as we did in the fall. Connecting with them, working with the student service team and helping that transition occur. Same thing with medical, both staff and students will have to work through some medical things in regards to that. That's why we have FMLA, ADA, all those things in place to make sure that we're taking care of everyone as we transition. It's another transition in these kids' lives, so we want to make sure we're, same as we supported in the fall, we want to be able to support this transition as well.
I have just one question. So with optional pool testing, when is the time when people can sign up? We might have more people sign.
It's a rolling sign up, so
Rolling sign, okay.
anytime you want to sign up, feel free to contact your nurse, we'll add you to the list, and you'll start whenever that's the following week.
Okay, thank you.
I have a parent in preschool who didn't know that preschool kids were eligible, so we can probably
Sure.
kind of.
It's going to go in the weekly newsletters this week too on Friday. All the principals are preparing for what was to come. So we'll continue to reiterate the message. There'll be a district message sent out tomorrow on the changes if this goes through, and the presentation will be attached. And then from there, you'll have discussions with your principals, same as in the fall, right? You're gonna, because each building's different. So.
And then, so I know we have surgical masks for students in the schools, and it was referenced for teachers, we have an N95 mask. I'm just curious, like, are those hard to get? Will we be able to hand them to students who may want
So
them?
we met with the nurses at 1 today. We have plenty of inventory for adults. We have some calls out, so to speak, to see what's available through the state and or what we need to purchase ourselves. And then we do have the surgical masks available immediately.
Perfect. All right, any other thoughts, discussion? Everybody set? So I'd ask if there's a motion for the board to adopt the recommendation on the, what's it called, on the changes to the Hopkinton mask policy as presented.
So,
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it, and so that will be effective for the recommendation on March 7th, which is the day everybody comes back to school after having a glorious.
And can I just clarify that in regards to why not tomorrow? Because I'm sure that'll be a lot of questions. It allows, we've said since July, if there was going to be a change, we would have a meeting and there'd be a transitional period. Now, if we weren't on break next week, we would start on Monday and it will allow us, but those, I'm going to be honest, probably 2 days, not 3. These 2 days will allow us some internal transitions, and then that break will allow us for preparation to come back. All the other mitigation strategies, I just want to echo, the MERV filters are still changed and updated. Like all of those, none of that's going away. We're going to continue with all those other practices, and as we move through here through the spring, if we need to roll back more, we'll roll back more. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, next item on the agenda is a continuation of our policy discussions with Ms. Folsom. It's like fireside chat on policy with Ms. Folsom.
very exciting. Okay, so today, last meeting, you guys got a little bit of a break, and we just had 2 policies that we're bringing forward. Today, we're back at it, updating more policies. So the first ones that we're going to look at, and just as a note, all second reads and final reads in draft form are available to the public as well. We're going to start with looking at our student transportation services. The first policy is EEA, which is Student Transportation Services. And this basically this is a policy we already have in place. It says that we will bring kids to school by bus. There is a minimum that you have to provide busing for kids, I believe K through 8?
Yep.
K-8, if they live farther than 2 miles from the school. The way that our towns are set up, we're able to really provide it to all K-12 kids, no matter how far you live from the school, even if you're very close. So the main updates for this policy really is to link it to additional supporting policies. Speaking of additional supporting policies, we have policy ECAF, which is audio and video surveillance on school buses. This was adopted initially in 2013 when audio and video surveillance were put into school buses. So again, this is really just some statute updates, as statutes have been updated over the years, and connecting it to our other school transportation policies. We also have policy EEAE, which is our school bus safety program. This is also just bringing up to date a policy we already have in place, and there are no huge changes to this. Again, it's updating the legal references, the statutory references, and connecting it to our transportation. And then finally, we have policy EEAG, which is a new policy. This is the use of private vehicles to transport students. And basically this just says that staff are not allowed to transport students without having prior written authorization by the superintendent. But they can transport their own children, because of course they can. So those are the first. We're going to be bringing forward a couple more transportation services policies in the future. Just get excited about that. So there's a lot of them.
You're doing a great job carrying the policy flag.
Yeah, I'm working on it. The other policies that we are updating today, we're updating our instructional materials policy, and this one connects to, these are going to connect to the policies we talked about last week, which we had KEC and IHAM, which were reconsideration of instructional materials, health education, and exemption from instruction materials. So these are their connecting policies. So our first is instructional materials. There were no huge changes to this at all. These basically just says that our instructional materials conform to applicable NHDOE requirements and links it to our KEC policy. We also have our supplemental materials selection and adoption. This is like if you would like to show a movie or video in class. And this was something that you could already find in our student handbook, and people, we talked about it last time, people have the experience of getting the permission slip that goes home and says, hey, we're going to be showing this video, and here's what you can do if that's not something you would like your kid to see. So that's policy code, I don't know if I said it already, IJK.
Right.
Yeah?
Hop in.
Absolutely.
So there is that stipulation that parents are notified, but there's also the library as a resource. So airing what's in the library, and if it's in the library, do I still need to do that? Kind of just more pragmatic, operational standpoint. Sometimes those two things didn't jive in terms of the standards. So that might be something, I don't know whether that is in the library world or just the administrative side of things, but there can be a road. It's often odd that it's a library resource, but you guys still need to.
And these ones, these really related mostly to movies and videos that were chosen to be shown in class. We have another policy, IJL, which is specific to the selection of learning resources in the library.
No, I'm sick. So I'm going to show something in class, but I'm going to go get it out of the library wall. So
Yeah.
It's not self-selected, that's the decision, that's the difference. So that's an administrative thing. Meaning the teacher selecting it and showing it to the student, not the student walking in and self-selecting. So that's the line on that. But I know where you're, let's have a, I don't think it's a policy thing, it's an administrative procedural thing. Okay.
You have a note on that. Good. So I kind of teased it already then. So we have the other policy is IJL, and these are supplemental to policy IJ. Again, this was something that was already in the books that we're digitizing. And so this one really is the selection of learning resources, the criteria behind that, and the legal references as well. So those are all set for first reads. If you have any other questions about them, now you also have 2 more chances to talk about these. Is there anything else? Yeah? No? Okay. So we also have Only two for our second reads today. I already referenced them. It's KEC, Reconsideration of Instructional Materials, and IHAM, Health Education and Exemption from Instruction. These are both policies that we already had that we were just updating and digitizing. Are there any questions about these two?
Thank you.
And then finally, we have a fairly good-sized group of final reads. Again, these were all, I think all except for the use of social networking sites, policies that we already had in the books that we were updating, digitizing, making sure that they are connected. And Dulcie and I actually even talked about, once everything is online, trying to link policies. So if you're reading one policy and it references another policy, you'll be able to click on the letters and it will take you to the right place. So that's a pie in the sky, what we hope to get to with policies, to really make these as user-friendly as possible. So we have 8 policies for final reads tonight. So actually we have 9 policies for final reads. So first we have the 8 that we already went through at 2 other meetings. I won't go through them all. They've all been public. They're all available for the public to see. I don't think we have any further questions about those. The 9th one I did want to bring to your attention. It is policy DAF, which is Administration of Federal Grants. This is a policy that we have to reaffirm by state law every year. We are asking for 2 things. We are asking for, since we're at the beginning of the year, we would like to waive the first and second read. Part of the reason we would like to do this is because there are no changes that have been made. No procedural changes, no substantive changes have been made. Basically, this just gets updated every year to stay in line with state law, state and federal law. So we're asking for those first 2 reads to be waived and for this one to be put forward on a final read. And you'll notice with DAF, it is unlike any of our other policies. If you click on it, you do not get a 1-pager. This is several documents because all of the grants that Michelle is really in charge of are highly regulated, and this is part of that process. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to.
I have a question on one.
Yes.
GBEBB.
GBEBB.
Yep, staff student relations.
Yep.
Number 9. And Mike, maybe you can, this is maybe just hypervigilance given the climate that we currently live in. But where it says staff members shall not attempt to counsel. Everything else makes perfect sense. The word counsel, how we operationally define that, to me, I mean, students have often come and said, hey, can I talk to you? Or clearly a student's having a bad day and say, you know, after class, can I check in with you?
I feel like we actually made that edit in our meeting with Chris.
We edited it to include that unless you're qualified and assigned to do so. And I believe that in the reading and in policy committee, we were really looking at counseling as more than just talking about it or giving some advice, leaning more towards like in the therapeutic sense, providing actual counseling, therapeutic intervention, because it sort of goes along with assessing and diagnosing.
And I think that's why it aligned with the entire sentence. It wasn't singular to the sentence.
I guess just for me.
I mean, kids come and ask you questions.
My brain says that can be interpreted in many ways. In teachers, administrators, people give counsel to students every day, as they should, and not in context of this. Which makes perfect sense. I don't know if it's a different word or another way to say it, or if I'm just again being a little too hyper.
This is the fun stuff that we talk about in committee. I mean, one option would be to add the word therapeutically prior to the word counsel, so that it really helps define what type of counseling we're talking about. Though they should probably not give legal counsel either.
Yeah.
Can we approve it with the edit tonight? Or
Yeah.
does it go-
Yeah.
Okay, all right, just check. Okay.
That's why it's all in draft.
Yeah.
Great.
Does that resolve the?
I think so,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Andrea, anything else on these?
No, nope, I don't think so. I think just motion for the full slate and some waiving of reads
You got it.
for the last one.
All right, so if there's no other questions, so I'd ask if there's a motion from the board to approve policy JICK, pupil safety, violence prevention, and anti-bullying, as presented.
So moved.
It's gotta be a second, there we go.
We gotta get this down.
Any discussion?
6-1.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. Is there a motion for the board to approve policy GBEA, staff ethics, as presented?
So moved.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. Is there a motion for the board to adopt policy GBEAB, mandatory code of conduct reporting, all employees, as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. Is there a motion for the board to approve policy GBEB, employee conduct, as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. Is there a motion to approve policy GBEBB, staff-student relations, as presented, and then we can amend it?
I'd like to make an amendment.
No, make the motion first.
Okay, so moved.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
I would like to make an amendment to the policy, Mr. O'Brien.
And would that amendment be to add the word therapeutic?
That is
in,
correct.
in section 9?
That is
as
correct.
we previously discussed, perfect.
So I'll move it again?
No, you're fine.
Okay, great.
Okay, so there's a motion, it's been seconded, it's been amended. Does everybody understand what the vote is? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. Is there a motion for the board to approve policy GBEBD, employee use of social networking sites, as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. Is there a motion for the board to adopt policy KE, public complaints, as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. Is there a motion for the board to adopt policy KEB, public complaints about school personnel, employees, students, or administration?
So moved.
Second.
Nice.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. Is there a motion for the board to waive the first and second read for policy DAF, administration of federal grants?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? And is there a motion for the board to adopt policy DAF, administration of federal grants, as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you very much, policy committee, for your work. It's like an alphabet soup. It's great.
And just as a quick update, since we're talking policy, we are actually going to be, I know that I get the policies to you really like a day ahead of time. We're going to actually be moving our policy meetings to be in off weeks from school board meetings so that we will have more lead time so you're not spending the day before reading policies, even though it's exciting.
It's a good, it's kind of a good test.
Yeah.
See if they're doing their job, you know.
That's true.
I love this.
Okay.
All right, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 3 items, personnel report, superintendent's report, and review financials. So turn it over to Mr. Flynn.
Thank you. Personnel, this is sad to say, but we have Frank from our tech team who's resigning. I just think Matt's very lucky with the group that he has, and it's going to be a big hit for us. So without a question, he was an important part of the team. So that job is posted. I will say it as I transition quickly that it is open. So if anyone knows any network administrator friends that might be interested, please pass along the recommendation for the opening. So that is with regret, Frank. Moving on to the superintendent's report. I would like to mention that the Hopkinton Public Parent Advisory Forum, the next topic will be the review of the budget, school budget. So we'll be doing that the week we get back. Probably the 9th is the anticipated date. Making sure that anyone that wants to attend and ask questions, whether it's about the budget, whether it's about any of the warrants, kind of work through anything that's needed, that they'll have that opportunity to do so. So that would be, we'll be sending out the notices for that. Max and Rob kind of stole my winter sports update, so I guess I'll just leave it at nice job. We'll be honoring the ski teams at one of the upcoming meetings as well, to make sure that they have the same recognition. So
And the Alpine.
that's, I said the ski teams.
Yeah, well, I know, but they won state too. It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
They had a great parade.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to. I was going to roll it into the next one. That's fine. All right. No, great job. So Norm always steals my thunder, so I'm going to steal his quickly on the building project. The numbers are coming in. The final numbers are coming in. I know he's going to give an update here at the end, but we're in really good shape for the return on your investment for what the town did. We're going to be able to do some significant things here at the end with the return on investment. So I'll let him have the rest of that, but it's been good to see. I'm going to commend Michelle for her patience as we've worked through the, if you want to call it the punch list, as we're working through that to get towards a final, I keep calling it. But we're looking into good shape to have that completed prior to district meeting. So all those things should be done and finalized, and we're in good shape. So another compliment towards Michelle. Just throwing it out here for the voting for the town is March, thank you, 8th. And you are able to go out, not just vote for school board, but all the town offices, all the chairs that are open. So do yourself a favor and get out and vote. Every vote matters, every vote counts. I wanted to talk about, not that it's on really a lot of people's radars, but it's called the TEP internally. So it's the teacher evaluation plan. And it's something that I kind of targeted pretty early on with the groups and teachers of, I want to use the word outdated. I don't know if that's fair. It just needs to be reassessed and reevaluated. So we have that group finalized, and we're going to begin that work in March. The goal is for that group to reevaluate, redesign, whatever you want to do, and have that in place for the start of next school year. It's a large task to undertake. There's a lot of years of stuff in that, but I am confident in the group that we can get that done. But it's just another thing that the office is working on, so we're looking forward to that one for sure. I did want to mention the Winter Carnival. I hate to do this to Max. I'm going to kind of change his words a little bit. It was not our office or the administration's decision. It was kind of a combined decision amongst the student body and the administration. That spring fling is what I think is the word I've heard is going to be. It just seemed like a better decision at this point with everything that's going on. So it's going to be a different feel. There's going to be a lot of different things, but the students and both the administration wanted to make sure they had every opportunity to do the lip sync. Sorry, Jody, is that right?
Yeah.
Thank you. Battle of the bands, all those type of stuff. So it was a good delay, and everyone had a good conclusion to it. Yeah. Recycling club update. I say the recycling club, but it's Mrs. Roth's group. We are making some strides towards one of their goals for this year was to try and eliminate all the plasticware. So we're going to start to slowly, I'll call pilot that at certain spots with real silverware, real washing. I want to make sure that we're doing everything safely, but I thought that was pretty exciting that they do a lot of work and advocating for them, so we're going to start moving towards that. And last is something that's kind of picking up traction is starting a debate team at the Hopkinton Middle High School. There's a small league in New Hampshire, if you're not aware of it, very small, but we've been in contact to try and see what it takes to start one. looking for a coach. You need a coach and you need a team. So, but it's something that we've started to try and investigate and see what it takes for us to begin that. So another great thing that we can be good at, I'm sure, right? Win state championships, Max?
You can argue.
Yeah. Touche. And last is, I just want to kind of commend the staff and the students. Since the start of the school year, we've had small finish lines, right? We said Columbus Day, then we said Thanksgiving, then we said winter break, and then we had a goal of February break. And we've made each one of those finish lines so far, so when we get back, there'll be another 8-week finish line for April break, and then when we get back, it'll be graduation. Not to put a damper on anyone's mood, but Friday does not look great. I'm just putting it out there now for planning and preparation. The last update looked like about almost a foot, so it'll be a pretty challenging day, but more to come on that. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Michelle.
Thank you. So we have some donations tonight for the board to accept. So Health Trust gives $500 to each school for their wellness fund, and so then what happens is the wellness coordinator at each building works with their staff to figure out what activities they could do with that money. So that's $500 each for each school. I don't know how many might know about Sue Pazinski. She was a teacher that passed away many years ago. I'd say over 20. Okay. And so there were donations that were accepted in the very beginning after her death, as well as after that, that are in a fund. And every year we do get a amount of money that actually is given to staff members that are nominated for that. So this is what the $2,019.85 is. It's that it'll go in that fund. So there'll be some nominations that'll be coming forward for staff members. This is on the teacher realm. We do have a support staff member award that's called the Bonnie Wilson, because she is another staff member that passed away a number of years ago. But that's in the future. And the last item, we already talked about it, but the Hopkinton Public Schools Foundation is giving $8,970 for the mobile shelving units for the media center here. And that's it for the donations. As to the financial, we're getting closer to the end of the year. This is for the end of January. At this point, we're just under $450,000 that we will have. That is undesignated, that will be able, the board can choose what it might want to do, whether it be adding to Article 10, making some purchases to hit items off the CIP, et cetera, et cetera. But that'll be coming down as we get closer to the end of the year. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions?
And that was for food service, Michelle?
Oh, food service right now is showing about 170,000 deficit, but that's going to really change because I don't have it locked in that we're going to get what we've been getting for federal reimbursement through June. Just in case they change, because for those that aren't on the board, we didn't know about a change in the rate. So it kind of came as a surprise to not only Hopkinton, but the other districts in the state. So as quick as it can come, I'm just worried that as quick as it can go away, especially based on the number of kids that take it statewide. So as we get closer, that probably will be even potentially under $100,000 for a deficit with that.
So, Michelle, just, in the context of the way we did the budget this year, so this deficit would be significantly smaller if it were next year.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we're just moving in a direction where this is going to be offset by budget.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Offset or appropriately budgeted for. Okay. Thank you.
For free. Norm, did you have a question? Sorry.
I was thumbs up.
Oh,
Can I ask a question for Mike?
Yeah.
So on the strategic plan, so I know that all the.
Oh, I skipped that one. Sorry, go ahead.
So, yeah, I wasn't sure if I just.
Nope, I did not, there's no check mark. So strategic plan update, thank you. We are, the nerd in me will come out. We're in the exciting part of writing it now. So we've got one section down that's back to the committee for review. And as our consultant chips away, we review it to the committee. They send their feedback. We make alter edits. We'll have another final steering committee meeting in which hopefully they support it, move it forward to you guys, and then you guys will get to discuss it in public with Rick and whatever else is necessary, and then we'll move on from there. So he's moving along. He's really cranking it out. So
Is that for our March 7th meeting?
the goal is for that, yeah.
Next week, about
Even if it's just we're talking about a couple steps here, yeah. It doesn't have to be final, but yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank you for that. Ready? Watch this. Check. Got it.
Any other questions, comments? If not, so I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, which includes donations as described by Health Trust for the 3 buildings, a donation for $2,019.85 from the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation, and a donation of $8,970 from the Hopkinton Public Schools Foundation.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Ayes have it. So this brings us to our, I guess tonight, it's our second round of public comment, and so we don't have a sign-in sheet because I took it. So come on down.
Tricia Lambert, Galloping Hill Road. So, thank you for removing the masks from those kids. This has been a year since I started to, more than a year since I started to contact Steve Chamberlain and then the board, beginning in the March timeframe. I had very little response in the very beginning. Everything I told you seems to be coming true, even in the mainstream media. I'm very happy they're coming off. So I asked a couple questions at the last meeting, and I really knew the answers. I do appreciate the right to know request. I have to go through all that. But I really already knew the answers, and it's sort of interesting because I'm really hoping that that March 7th date can be moved up. It sounds like the board has punted over to Superintendent Flynn to make decisions from here after. So it's no longer a board decision, which is very interesting to me. It's been a board decision from the beginning. My children were disciplined on the 3rd day of school, and there was no board vote to put masks on. They were suspended. Okay? 8 days they were suspended. There was no board vote to the 14th. My children have been harmed. They were harmed. They were denied school for those days when there was no board vote. Now we're saying it's not a board vote, it's now Superintendent Flynn's. So I know the answers. You are not covered. You are not covered by the insurance, bonds, none of it. And you know why? Because crimes aren't covered. If you violate the Constitution, which you did, under the color of law, I believe it's section 242, title 18, you took an oath. That's a crime, a major crime of the law of the land, Marbury versus Madison. Okay? So I'm just letting you know. The other thing you're not covered for is lawsuits. You're not going to be covered for lawsuits. It's not going to cover you. Sorry, I forgot the name, but it's when everybody sues you. And Polito is correct. Parents are upset. They won't come before you because they're scared to, because of how they'll be treated, like my children were treated. They were denied school over a mask. And I was told by Superintendent Flynn that I don't have medical choice for my children, but there's no law giving me that choice. Well, you know what? There was no law from the beginning that gave you the right to put a mask on a child or any human being. I'm just putting you on notice. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments for public comment?
Hi everyone, this is Brandon Dunlap, Wolf Road. Thank you guys for the thoughtful discussion, and I just wanted to say another thank you because my kids have been able to attend school because of the masks and other mitigation factors, which I really appreciate. My 9-year-old, who's severely immunocompromised, would not have been able to attend school otherwise, so I thank you for that. And I just wanted to note, I appreciated Andrea's comment that this isn't celebratory for all of us, but also wanted to note it's not like some generalized anxiety or some hypothetical risk. For some of us, it's a true physical risk. A kid who's immunocompromised, who's on immunosuppressive drugs to keep her alive, the risks from something like COVID are very real, and they're known. So I just wanted to remind you and others that for many of us, this is about true physical risk. It's not something we're imagining. So I hope people will keep in mind that those among us who are immunocompromised or otherwise vulnerable depend on the goodwill and reasonable actions of others. And I just hope people will keep that in mind as we move into this mask optional phase. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
Hello, Elizabeth Sides, Crowell Road. I want to echo Rini as well. Thank you for giving my kids this much full-time school. Like that was your goal from the beginning, and it's happened. And that's not because of anything except that we've been wearing masks. And in the beginning, the younger kids weren't allowed to be vaccinated, so masks were in, and they worked. And the large percentage of parents in this town really, really appreciate that. And while I wish that maybe it was a week or two later that the masks become optional, I'm also reasonable, and I'm not going to fight you on it, and it's okay. My kids are still going to wear masks. I'm not going to get mad at other kids whose parents or themselves don't want to wear them. But so far, they've worked really well, and we're just all really grateful. So thank you, and I don't think you hear that enough. I think you hear the negative stuff. But there's a whole large group of us who adore all of you for keeping our kids in school, because that's what's most important. And I know some kids don't wear masks, tolerate them well, and I think that is true, but the majority of kids are okay with them. So for us, it hasn't been a big deal, and I've been really happy with the way that the school has handled just this whole process, because it's been a nightmare for everyone. So thank you. And then another separate note, I know that Mike, you recognized all the nurses. I was watching that a couple weeks ago or months ago. But as a parent of a 5-year-old diabetic who relies on Jean Picard and Harold Martin all day long, she keeps Kate alive. She's amazing. Terry Grady, her teacher, is amazing, who knew probably zero about diabetes before Kate. And I just want to give them a huge shout out, and Bill Carrozza has been great, everyone. But I think this year especially, with Jean dealing with COVID stuff as a nurse of little kids, and then dealing with my little baby who really can't manage herself. It's a constant, ongoing, changing thing all day long. And I thank Jean, she knows it. And I just hope that everyone out there realizes how important our school nurses are, and that not everyone has amazing nurses like we do. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Or for second public comments?
Thank you, Lauren Clement, 86 Maple Street. I guess my next question goes kind of to safe learning, but wasn't mask related. I'm curious if the school has put thought into this yet, and if not, that's okay. But I'm wondering if stuff like the water fountains are gonna be opened back up now that you're changing this policy, and hearing, obviously, other parents are still gonna have their children masked, whether mask breaks are gonna continue. I'm sure there's a gamut more of other things that may need some tweaking, but I was just curious about the bubblers are what come to mind, because I know my kid runs out of water and then doesn't like to use them, but like there are fountains there, you should use the water fountains.
So our water bottle ones work.
Yeah, I think my kid said she witnessed a kid pushing the button and drinking from the water bottle filler, and it turned her off, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's not a safe practice. We don't teach that.
No,
So-
it might have been an isolated incident, but
I think,
anyhow.
yeah, I think we understand, and I think as Mike and his team work on how to implement the mask recommendation, we'll have to communicate some of those changes. But thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, close public comment and move on to the catch-all other business, old business committee updates.
So I'll go.
Let's do it.
All right, so we had our building committee meeting last week, and I want to say it was great. I really want to say thank you to Michelle. She really buckled down with BPS and Gordon, and we really worked on reconciling our account with them, and we're reaching the conclusion of this project. So the goal now for the next week when school is closed, since school kids are not in school, we can do more work in our schools right now because BPS needs to get into the labs, they need to do a bunch of other stuff on our punch list right now. So the goal right now is that we will be complete by the end of that Friday of next week. Barry's committed that to us. And then we will have a meeting on March 7th to discuss the completion of the project, if anything else lingering. And it's been really great that we've been able to get the punch list done for the schools and moving forward with that. Before I move on to the next thing, does anyone have any questions about the punch list or anything?
No, it doesn't, that means that we should have a good update for the March 7th, right?
That is correct. Yep, we will have a great update by then to go over everything. We'll have a meeting before this meeting, so it works out great. The next thing to discuss was Bill had mentioned numerous times tours at Harold Martin, and it's time to be able to give some tours out to the community. And the building committee has asked Bill to provide some guidance for that, for him to be able to give some tours, some sign-ups and all that stuff. And the building committee is making a recommendation to allow Bill to do that. He set up some dates of March 17th and the 24th from like 5:30 to 6:30. Jay Burgess will be there. I plan to be there, really to help celebrate this exciting time for the district. Bill will have his own recommendations that's been approved in this board, which is mass recommended, and he will have participants set up in advance so he knows who's going to be there. We will have at some point the science labs when they're complete. You know, they're going to do a little more work on there, which they're doing. I just didn't want to discount that. But the recommendation from the building committee is to move forward with allowing Bill to give some tours. So I don't know if we need a motion or just a go ahead, but it's exciting that people can come see the great work that was done in the building project.
Any objection from anybody on the board to that plan? And Mike, you've been
we're ready to go.
working with Bill? Yeah. Perfect. That's great.
Great. And so on Monday, we'll have an update, really finalizing the building project, which we can celebrate. I think it's great. And then, as you know, we're working some stuff with the district meeting, which will be finalized, and we will go from there.
Thank you, Norm. That's great. Almost there.
Yeah.
Any other updates?
We get any bids?
So that got pushed out?
The flooring?
Oh.
For boiler.
Yeah, so both companies needed an extended timeline, so now it closes in March.
March 1st, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
So there are people working on it,
Yeah,
yes.
but there's, and I'll call it, there's a bunch of pieces in play for CIP related.
Dependent on that, yeah. There's a couple dominoes that need to fall.
Nice. And then, Rob, did you have something?
Finance committee, Mike and I talked about setting schedule after school district meetings and, some agenda items for the coming year.
And then it's been referenced a couple of times, but our next scheduled meeting would be on Tuesday, March 8th, which also happens to be town election day, so that seems like a bad time for the board to meet. And so I think it's been checked, but does the 7th work for everybody to meet at 5:30? So just do it on the Monday before. Perfect. Just want to make sure the public knew that as well.
That's already been posted as well.
Oh, man.
Yep.
I'm 2 steps behind.
Yep.
Yeah, that's all right. And then I would ask if if folks don't mind having a quick non-public under A for personnel. And so if there's not anything else on the agenda, I would ask for a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A:3, Roman 2A for personnel.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? So it's a roll call. Rob?
Yes.
Norm Gupel, yes.
Yes.
And yes. So we'll be non-public and there's no business, so we'll be adjourned until Monday, March 7th. Thank you very much.